The organizers of the rebellion, betraying their country, their people, also betrayed those who were drawn into the crime.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, Russian President Vladimir Putin addressing his nation after a short-lived revolt. The new questions over his leadership in the country and what he's saying about his challengers today.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information.
Former President Trump caught on a recording discussing classified material after claiming he never had documents like those, while the latest as a federal investigation continues. And the Supreme Court rejecting a controversial election law theory. That decision involving a North Carolina case and the ruling that we're expecting this week. Scripps News Live begins right now. Hello and welcome to your Tuesday edition of Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica Cruz. We begin this hour in Russia 4 days after paid mercenaries briefly seized control of the largest city in the southern part of the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin insisting that his country is more unified now than ever. In a defiant speech delivered this morning at the Kremlin, Putin praised Russia's military and law enforcement officers for averting a, quote, civil war and insisting the people of Russia support his regime.
Your determination and courage and the consolidation of the entire Russian society played a key and decisive role in stabilizing the situation. People who were pulled into the mutiny saw that the army and the people weren't on their side. You defended the constitutional order, lives, security, and freedom of our citizens, saved our motherland from upheavals, and effectively stopped a civil war. You acted clearly and harmoniously in a difficult situation.
But President Putin's self-declared victory has come at a cost. He confirmed reports of Russian army pilot deaths connected to fighting with the Wagner Group. Wagner Group head Yevgeny Prigozhin addressing those deaths in an audio statement from neighboring Belarus on Monday. He says his troops were forced to down 6 Russian helicopters and a military communications plane because they were launching missile strikes on his men. Now, the Kremlin still insisting it's closed a criminal investigation into the armed rebellion, and it's offered the Wagner Group's paid soldiers the opportunity to sign contracts and remain in the fight. During a TV address on Monday, President Putin praised the Wagner men who, quote, stopped on the brink. American analysts believe this is Moscow's attempt to retain as many Wagner troops as possible in order to keep badly needed manpower on the battlefield against Ukraine. Now, in a speech today, Belarus's president, who helped broker this deal with Prigozhin, said the Wagner Group's insurrection was a significant threat and that Belarus's military was on standby as the mutiny unfolded. Scripps News national political correspondent Alex Miller joins us now live from New York. So, Alex, bring us up to speed here. What is the latest in Belarus right now?
Well, Belarus really seems to be the middleman effectively in this conflict. The president Lukashenko says that Prigozhin is now in Belarus. He says that he and his troops are welcome to stay there for some time at their own expense. What that actually means in terms of a calendar is really still very much up for debate. But he has painted himself as almost the voice of reason in this entire situation. Veronica, in his speech, he said that Putin was ready to kill Prigozhin over the weekend over this mutiny, and that Lukashenko said that he is the one who said not to do it, not to rush to it, and instead to make a compromise. Well, whether that is actually the case obviously still remains to be seen, but that is what he is saying to his people.
All right, Alex Miller reporting live for us from New York. Alex, thank you. In the meantime, the White House making it clear the U.S. and NATO had nothing to do with the Wagner Group's advance on Moscow. Congressional correspondent Stephanie Lieberman has more now on their response.
Hey, good afternoon. Well, the White House stressing today that nothing has changed when it comes to United States support for Ukraine. A prime example of that being the new assistance package that the Department of Defense and the White House just announced today. Another $500 million worth of equipment from the United States going over to Ukraine. This includes munitions for the Patriot missile system. This includes other rocket systems and missiles, armored vehicles, as well as mine clearing equipment, things that the Ukrainians need on the ground, and equipment that we know they are already using successfully against Russia in the battle on the ground. Now, Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton, in her first briefing from the podium today, stressed that the United States wants to see the end to the war in Ukraine, but the support for Ukraine remains strong and unchanged.
We don't have a perfect picture right now of what is happening, but we want to continue to make one thing very, very clear, and that is that we resolutely stand by and support Ukraine.
On the ground in Ukraine and in Russia, an evolving situation, of course, over the last few days. The new information we got today, though, was Prigozhin, the leader of that Wagner group, of that rebellion, is now officially in Belarus. We also learned today that Russia has formally dropped the charges against Prigozhin and other members of his militia who were marching towards Moscow. Now, typically, armed mutiny faces up to 20 years in a Russian prison. So the fact that Russia says, you know what, they stopped before they actually committed a crime, this is a really measured response from Russian President Vladimir Putin, considering he normally very strongly attacks his opponents. We've heard from Putin multiple times over the last few days, where in his speech yesterday, he strongly condemned and blasted the organizers of the rebellion, calling them traitors, but at the same time praised the Wagner group's efforts on the ground in Ukraine. That could be a nod or an attempt to keep the troops in Ukraine still there and on the ground fighting on Russia's behalf. We heard from Putin again today, where he mentioned some casualties in that armed rebellion that was heading toward Moscow. 6 Russian helicopters and a military communications plane shot down, killing reportedly about a dozen people. So an evolving situation in Ukraine and, of course, in Russia as well. Prigozhin now in Belarus, but the White House continuing to monitor everything that is happening related to Ukraine, leading up to the big NATO summit that's coming up next month. And the White House saying that President Biden continually receives updates of what's happening on the ground. Stephanie Liebergen, Scripps News, Washington.
And we would like to remind you right here, you can always stay up to date on this developing story and much more at scripsnews.com. You can also follow Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. To the Supreme Court now, where justices handed a victory to voting rights advocates in Moore versus Harper. The court ruling that North Carolina's highest state court didn't overstep its legal authority in striking down a heavily gerrymandered congressional districting map. Chief Justice John Roberts penning the majority opinion in that 6-3 ruling. The High Court declining to invoke the so-called independent state legislature theory, which would grant state legislatures broad, nearly unchecked power to regulate federal elections. In a statement released shortly after the ruling, former President Obama called the ruling a, quote, resounding rejection of far-right theory that has been peddled by election deniers and extremists looking to undermine our democracy. Justices still have to issue 7 more cases, including one that could decide the future of President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. Deputy Political Director Joe St. George takes a closer look at the decisions that we're still waiting on and what's at stake. That's coming up in our next half hour on Scripps News Live. In the meantime, if you know a soon-to-be college grad, you might want to point them south in order to find a great job. We'll explain why. Also, legal trouble continues for the former president. We'll have the latest after a new audio recording is released with Donald Trump discussing classified material. That's next.
It's no secret that car repairs are expensive and not getting any cheaper. An out-of-warranty vehicle could cost you thousands unless you get the CarShield Advantage before you break down. That's the power to protect yourself from expensive repair bills. Let me tell you about the CarShield Advantage. This car is out of warranty, and this car got coverage through CarShield. As you can see, a breakdown could cost you a lot of money unless you call CarShield before that happens. Once your vehicle is out of warranty, it's more likely to break down. With so many moving parts in your vehicle, it's really only a matter of when it's going to happen. Having the CarShield Advantage helps protect you from having to pay for expensive repairs. Let's look at coverage. Your plan can cover critical parts in the engine that you need protected, like your engine block, oil pump, and timing gears. Customers can also save on repairs for the transmission, air conditioner, compressor. Before your check engine light comes on, you should call CarShield because they help cover your cooling system, radiator, and water pump. With so many parts and systems protected, like your power windows, backup cameras, power seats, LCD screens, power steering, plus so much more, it's easy to see that CarShield can help save you thousands on car repairs. The real CarShield Advantage isn't just the money you'll save on car repairs. It's the included benefits that will make you feel safe and secure, like rental car options. You'll also get 24/7 roadside assistance that includes flat tire repair, emergency fuel delivery, lockout help, courtesy towing at no additional cost. Calling CarShield gives drivers the advantage over expensive car repairs. Don't delay. Call CarShield today.
Protect yourself from the unprecedented rise in costs for diagnostics, labor, parts, and taxes. Call CarShield now to save with our Price Lock Guarantee. Call 800-358-8984, 800-358-8984, 800-358-8984.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. LeafGuard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average and built to last. Plus, LeafGuard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete LeafGuard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
Developing now, newly surfaced audio of former President Trump putting his initial claims about not possessing highly classified documents in question. In the recording from 2021, the former president can be heard discussing a classified document on Iran with a guest at his Bedminster golf resort. Scripps News national political correspondent Kevin Cirilli has the details for us.
In new audio recordings from CNN, former President Donald Trump is heard discussing Iran and classified documents with ghostwriters who are writing a book for his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. Take a listen.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to figure
Declassify.
out.
In another portion, one of the aides asks former President Trump about the 2020 election. Trump answers by discussing military plans pertaining to Iran, referencing his chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, you know, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Milley's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look.
Trump says the tapes exonerate him. Taking to his ultra-conservative social media platform Monday evening, he wrote, quote, "The deranged special prosecutor, Jack Smith, working in conjunction with the DOJ and FBI, illegally leaked and spun a tape and transcript of me, which is actually an exoneration." A federal grand jury indicted Trump earlier this month on 37 charges in connection with alleged mishandling of classified documents after he left the White House. Trump is campaigning in New Hampshire today, another state where he remains the dominant frontrunner in early primary and caucus states. Also campaigning, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is trailing in second place, a distant second. Reporting from Washington, Kevin Cirilli, Scripps News.
Meanwhile, the special counsel's investigation continues as the Georgia Secretary of State says he will speak with Jack Smith's team tomorrow. Brad Raffensperger's office confirmed that interview. Then President Trump called Raffensperger back in January 2021, urging him to, quote, find votes so he would win the state of Georgia over Joe Biden. Raffensperger says there were moments during the call that he felt Trump was threatening him into changing the election results. The Fulton County District Attorney is also investigating that call. Meanwhile, an arraignment in Miami for the other man accused in the classified documents case is being rescheduled. He is due back in court July 6th. A lawyer for Trump aide Walt Nauta said that his client has had difficulty finding a Florida-based attorney. Nauta's flight from New Jersey was also canceled. Prosecutors say that Nauta helped move boxes around containing classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and then lied about it to the FBI. Joining me now live is Paul Peltier. He is a former Department of Justice attorney. Paul, thanks so much for your time today.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I should say.
It is the afternoon. Well, you know, if you are on the West Coast, then you are forgiven. It would be 12, so it would be the afternoon. Nevertheless, Paul, let's go ahead and start with this documents case out of Miami right now with Walt Nauta, who was a former Trump aide. He was scheduled to appear in court. It's now been postponed, and this is the second time that it's being postponed. Tell us more about what's at stake here for Nauta. Is he facing as much potential trouble as the former president?
Well, he's facing as much trouble. The charges against him and his actions specifically revolve around obstruction. Ultimately, if he's convicted, he would go to jail. There would be a jail sentence imposed based upon the seriousness of the crime. So he's facing some severe trouble and possibly lengthy time in jail. And that's exactly what the prosecutors wanted to do here, because what they've done is charged a co-conspirator, someone at a lower level than former President Trump. And the angle is they would love him to flip on Trump. And right now it looks like, with the arraignment being postponed, that he's having trouble getting a lawyer. Not sure what the reason for that is, but he definitely is in a box that the prosecutor wants him in, and they're going to try and force him to cooperate against former President Trump. That's what it looks like was going on.
Yeah, I mean, he was Trump's longtime valet for years. How do you think this is going to play out, Paul? What outcomes do you see for Walt in this?
Well, again, remember, there are only really three outcomes. The first is that he's acquitted at trial. The second is that he's convicted at trial. And third is that he pleads guilty and cooperates with the government in their case against Trump. And that seems to be a likely outcome if he believes he's going to be convicted and go to jail. And the reason why that's a fairly likely outcome is because if he cooperates, it allows the judge to reduce his sentence based upon his cooperation. So if he feels like that there's an assurance of a conviction and an assurance of jail based upon the strength and the quality of the government's evidence, which is strong, then the likelihood of him cooperating is much greater. And that's the game the prosecutor's playing here.
I want to move on to some of the evidence now. How could this newly aired audio recording in which the former president is discussing a classified document on Iran that he was holding on to impact the case?
Well, we saw from the original indictment, there was a transcript of that. So the prosecutors had it, and the prosecutors obviously played it before the grand jury. The difference now is we've heard it. And now that we've heard it, it proves or shows to us or anyone who's heard it that the president hasn't been telling the truth about that event. He hasn't been telling the truth before Brett Baier on Fox News, and he hasn't been telling the truth to the American public about what that was. What we also know, and you have to consider, is when a jury gets to hear someone in their own words, in essence, confess to the crime, and when sure as can be, the prosecutors will call eyewitnesses to that event, people who were at Bedminster, who will say, those were classified top secret documents that he was showing us. And then you hear his own words where he says he couldn't unclassify them because he wasn't president anymore. That's about as damning evidence as you can get if you're a prosecutor. And now that we can hear it, it is such a good tape. It puts you in the room with him. And it is frightening to see a former president treating this top secret information so cavalierly. So I think it's very incriminating, and I think it's very powerful.
So are you saying that this will be the smoking gun in the case?
It is one of the smoking guns. I'm sure that the prosecutor, Jack Smith, has kept other things, and we don't know what all the witnesses are going to say. And the reality is there are going to be a lot of eyewitnesses to the events that are set forth in the indictment. And that eyewitness testimony, along with this smoking gun tape, is going to be critical to setting forth the scenario of which this former president cavalierly treated confidential and top secret information and literally laughed about it and said, boy, this is cool. Things like that. That is extraordinarily compelling evidence.
Something else that's going to be really critical here, Paul, is jury selection in this case. I wanted to ask you more about jury selection, how that could impact this, and also this idea about his attorneys moving to seat an anonymous jury. What does that mean exactly?
Well, an anonymous jury is a jury in which the press or the public doesn't have the information as to who the makeup of the jury is. In other words, they don't know who they are, they don't know what their occupations are, and they don't know where they live. And the reason why defense attorneys sometimes ask for that is so that they can't be influenced by either the press or other things. They don't want people bothering them. And as we all know, the MAGA crowd has a tendency to try and de-amplify, if you will, what the evidence is against former President Trump. So by anonymizing the jury, it'll keep the public and anybody from sort of contacting or finding out about these people. That's number one. Number two, jury selection, as a former federal prosecutor, it was very, very clear, particularly in white collar cases or in financial crime cases, that the makeup of the jury was essential to making sure that both the defendant and the government could get a fair trial. Here, depending on where the trial is held, it could be held in Stewart, where the judge sits, or in West Palm Beach, where the case was effectively indicted. The West Palm Beach jury will be more, I would say, more likely to be politically against President Trump, more likely to be Democratic. If the case is in Stewart, it'll be more likely to be a Republican.
And we're going to have to see what comes next in all of this. We're running out of time. We've got to get to a break. Paul Peltier, former Justice Department attorney, thank you so much for your insight on this, Paul. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, student loan repayments set to start again soon. How to start adjusting your monthly budgets. Also, millions of Americans right now dealing with sweltering heat when they could get a break from all of that hot weather. That's next.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. And rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
I got the groceries.
You were just supposed to get diapers.
Couldn't find them.
Well, you found your favorite cereal. Go back.
Can't.
We're kinda broke until payday.
Well, diapers kinda can't wait. I'm getting the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives me up to $250 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
Hurry back.
No guarantees. Diapers are so hard to find.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $250 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
Sunday nights on In Real Life.
And for the baby?
Yeah.
Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
Stunts have become more specialized.
And to the heart of the story.
When the pandemic hit, the American dream kind of changed.
There were a lot of warning signs. They just didn't care.
In Real Life, Sunday at 8, 7 Central, only on Scripps News.
A brutal heat wave across the southern U.S. baking the region and creating dangerous conditions. 55 million people are under heat alerts right now. People in an area stretching from Arizona to Florida are sweltering under triple-digit temperatures. Excessive heat warnings are in effect for Dallas, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where the heat index is approaching 120. Temperatures will stay above 100 degrees from southern Arizona through New Mexico and into Texas today, with little relief before next week. And with temperatures that high, there are plenty of risks outdoors, including dehydration and skin cancer. In fact, Arizona has one of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world. Researchers at the University of Arizona are building a tool that they hope will improve care with earlier diagnoses and avoiding unnecessary biopsies. They're creating this new system that will help track skin cancer cases across the U.S., linking 3 different databases.
So when scientists or industry partners can access this data, they're able to retrieve it all at once.
And find information that they need so that they can design a better solution or a strategy to take care of the needs of the patients. This allows us to use what we already had. We just had to stitch it together.
Skin cancer registries right now only contain information on melanoma cases, but they make up less than 10% of all skin cancers. Researchers hope the new system will eventually help track all skin cancers. And a big heads up, Costco is cracking down on membership sharing. So if you have been borrowing a friend's membership card, then pay attention because you won't be able to shop at Costco anymore. Employees will be on hand to check IDs at self-checkout lanes. And Costco is saying non-members shouldn't get the same benefits as membership fees, or how the chain is able to keep their costs so low. So pay attention. For the audience leaving us, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out on scripsnews.com if you're staying with us. There is more news headed your way. I'm Veronica Cruz, and we will be right back.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps, swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said, go for it. And I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today, or visit revitive.com. Order now.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday. Here are some of the other stories that we're keeping an eye on for you right now. Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a defiant speech today, 3 days after an insurrection by his own mercenaries threatened his grip on power. Putin praised Russia's military for averting a, quote, civil war. Wagner Group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, in the meantime, has been in exile in Belarus. Today, he confirmed his fighters shot down Russian military helicopters and a communications plane during the rebellion over the weekend. So offering free birth control might be a major factor in avoiding unplanned pregnancies and abortions. A National Bureau of Economic Studies shows uninsured women were 40% more likely to use any type of contraceptive when it's offered for free. Researchers say the women were also more likely to choose longer lasting and more effective methods. A frozen fruit recall is now expanding. Scenic Fruit Company says its organic tropical fruit blend with pineapple might contain listeria. Sunrise Growers Frozen Fruit Products has a similar ongoing recall. The contaminated fruit was sold at Trader Joe's nationwide, as well as some regional health stores. The FDA is recommending tossing that bag or returning it to the store for a refund. Developing now new findings from a Justice Department watchdog report on the death of wealthy financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Inspector General Michael Horowitz finding that a, quote, combination of negligence and misconduct were contributing factors in his suicide in 2019. Now, among the findings, the Federal Bureau of Prisons' failure to assign Epstein a cellmate after his previous one left. Also, problems with surveillance cameras inside the jail. And the failure of jail staff to remove extra bed linens inside his cell. Now, that report also acknowledges at least 13 employees at the jail engaged in, quote, poor performance. Some were reportedly sleeping and shopping online instead of checking on him every 30 minutes as required. Now, the report didn't find any foul play connected to Epstein's death. In Idaho, prosecutors are now seeking the death penalty against the man accused of fatally stabbing 4 university students. Brian Kohberger has already pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of murder in connection to last November's attack. He's expected to appear in court today for another pretrial hearing. Newly filed documents show the lead prosecutor in the case called the killings, quote, especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. And Kohberger exhibited utter disregard for human life, actions that meet the standard for the death penalty in Idaho. We are now hearing from the black teenager who was shot after going to the wrong house to pick up his siblings. Police say a white homeowner shot Ralph Yarl in the head in Kansas City, Missouri in April. Yarl shared the moments before and after the shooting on ABC's Good Morning America.
I ring the doorbell. I'm just on the porch. So then I hear the door open. I see this old man and I'm assuming, oh, this must be like their grandpa. And then he pulls out his gun, and I'm like, whoa. Then it happened, and then I'm on the ground. I fall on the glass, the shattered glass, and then before I know it, I'm running away, shouting, help me, help me.
84-year-old Andrew Lester pleaded not guilty to the charges against him in connection with the shooting. Yarl has been recovering from a traumatic brain injury. Also developing a newly released audio recording, creating new headaches for former President Trump's lawyers. On that 2-minute recording, Trump talked about a classified document on Iran that he was holding, and he admitted to knowing that it hadn't been declassified. The audio was recorded back in 2021 at Trump's golf club in New Jersey, and it was mentioned in the federal charges against the former president. So despite his legal challenges, former President Trump is holding 2 campaign events today. Those events happening as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis also campaigns in New Hampshire. Congressional correspondent Nate Reed has the details.
Well, despite Democrats changing up the order of their presidential nominating primary, Republicans have left the order as is in previous years, with New Hampshire being the first state with a presidential primary. Now it's up to former President Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis to make their case to voters across the Granite State. Former President Trump speaking, of course, this afternoon at an event with women, Republican women in New Hampshire. Ron DeSantis hosting his own event, making the case for voters to elect him as their Republican nominee. He also made the case that he has been able to capture much of the Republican electorate in Florida and won his most recent gubernatorial race in a landslide.
And remember, before I got on the scene, Florida was a one-point state. It was a swing state. You know, I think all the elections, including my first, were decided by 1 point or less, governor, presidential. Of course, in 22, we did something about that, and we won by almost 20, and so people don't talk about it being a swing state anymore, but you know.
But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has some ground to make up in the Granite State. 13% of likely Republican primary voters saying that they'd support him, with 47% of those likely Republican primary voters saying they'd still support former President Donald Trump. As you can see, everyone else there across the field in New Hampshire still in the single digits, with Chris Christie up to 9%. But it's going to be up to Ron DeSantis to be able to make up some of that gap with former President Trump and get additional Republicans on his side in the Granite State. That could potentially set the tone for his candidacy as it continues across the other early presidential nominating states. Now, former President Trump used his event in New Hampshire earlier today. He spent part of it attacking Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He was clear that the reason for those attacks, the governor's place in current polls.
57% for President Trump. DeSanctimonious at 19%. He's heading. Question is, when will he go to third place? Somebody said, how come you only attack him? I said, because he's in second place. Well, why don't you attack others? Because they're not in second place. But soon, I don't think he'll be in second place, so I'll be attacking somebody else.
In his speech, former President Trump referencing last week's morning consult poll showing him with a commanding lead among Republican primary voters, 57% of whom saying that they would vote for former President Donald Trump, 19%, slightly higher than the numbers in New Hampshire, saying they would support Ron DeSantis. As you can see there, though, everyone else, Mike Pence, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, and Chris Christie, all in single digits. And that polling deficit is a large part of the reason why we're seeing Ron DeSantis in the early presidential nominating states like New Hampshire. He wants to get that message out to Republican voters. He wants to coalesce as much support as possible in order to become the Republican nominee in 2024. There's still several more months to go before we even start talking about voters turning out to the polls in New Hampshire. It's going to be up to Ron DeSantis this summer to make his case to those early presidential primary voters in order to coalesce his support. Nathaniel Reed, Scripps News, Washington.
And this week is shaping up to be a major week in Washington as we await several rulings from the Supreme Court. Today, the High Court cleared up some election confusion between state legislatures and state courts. Deputy Political Director Joe St. George explains.
Well, it's that time of year when the Supreme Court issues its most consequential and typically, sometimes, the most controversial opinions of the term. The Supreme Court could have created chaos when it comes to political redistricting or with the results of the 2024 election. In the end, with their opinion in Moore v. Harper, the Supreme Court kept the status quo. Specifically, we're talking about the independent state legislature theory. And if you drew it out of a hat at a party, you might not know what it is, but the Supreme Court had been looking into it for months. It's the theory that state legislatures cannot be overruled by state courts or state judges, that they can draw maps as they choose or report election results as they choose. But the Supreme Court really ended any debate on that theory today. Chief Justice John Roberts writing the majority opinion of the court. We are still waiting on the biggest cases of the term, however. 2 cases on President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan need to be issued and ruled on. 2 cases on affirmative action need to be ruled on as well. Remember, President Biden wants to forgive $10,000 worth of debt for millions of Americans who meet income requirements. $20,000 worth of debt could be forgiven if Americans meet those requirements and had a Pell Grant while in college. Many conservatives around the country would like the Supreme Court to block that policy proposal, believing it's fundamentally unfair to some Americans who may not have student loan debt. Other conservatives believe President Biden simply doesn't have the power. The other big case involves affirmative action. Remember, this is the question of whether or not race should be asked in the college admission process. It's something that's already banned in 9 states around the country. The Supreme Court could ban it nationwide. Many universities have said they need that question in order to keep their communities diverse and inclusive. Meanwhile, some conservatives have argued for years that that question is unfair to applicants going to college. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
And speaking of student loan debt, in about 3 months from now, those payments will resume. As we await a Supreme Court ruling on President Biden's plan, the Department of Education is saying that payments will resume in October, but the interest on the balances will resume in September. So financial experts are saying if you are a borrower, then you want to figure out your potential debt right now. Check with your loan company and switch payment plans to one that works better for you, and review your expenses to see what you can cut right now to make room for loan repayments.
It's a real debt and you signed up for it. You're responsible for it. You have to have a plan to pay that back. And if by some Hail Mary, some, miracle, this ends up, getting through and we end up, having it forgiven, well, that's a bonus, but I wouldn't plan on that.
Now, financial advisors are saying if you wait, then you're going to end up battling millions of other borrowers also waiting until the very last minute. So many recent college grads out there probably trying to figure out what to do and where to go next. Consumer financial services company Bankrate has compiled a list of the best cities to start a career, and it shows some interesting trends. Cities that were once hot spots for young people like Los Angeles or maybe New York are no longer near the top of the list. Instead, some recent grads are heading south. Earlier, I spoke with Alex Gailey from Bankrate about the top 10 best cities to start your career and why places like Austin, Raleigh, and Nashville are all topping that list. You are saying that recent college grads should be heading south, but it used to be that college grads were always urged to go to the coast, right? There are more jobs in New York or LA. Why are these cities not ranking as high anymore?
Absolutely. Cities that have traditionally been popular postgraduate destinations or just destinations for young workers, such as New York, DC, LA, are really not the most market friendly or livable options because of the high cost of living. And on top of that, we've been battling with record high inflation over the last year or so. So instead, we've seen cities like Austin, Texas, Salt Lake City, they have become tech hubs and they are attracting a lot of young talent that have high paying salaries and they are ultimately more affordable. And at the same time, they have vibrant cultures and a lot of outdoor activities that appeal to young professionals in the post pandemic era.
So finding a place to live here is really just half the battle to starting your career. Finding a job is the second half. Actually, I should argue that it's probably the first half. Got to find the job first. Is this a good time for college grads to even be looking for the first step in their careers? What are you seeing right now in the labor market?
So, despite high interest rates and talk of a recession and even inflation still being elevated, it is a great time to get a job right now. The job market overall is still really tight and it's broadly viewed as strong. We saw a little bit of a cool down in May, but historically speaking, the unemployment rate is still at multi decade lows. And the nation's employers really stepped up their hiring in May. They added more than 300,000 jobs, well above expectations and evidence of the strength of the economy.
All right, so you're saying that they added 300,000 jobs, but what about wages? What do wages look like right now for recent college grads?
So we do know that wage growth has been elevated. We see that wages are high, and that's why it's been so hard to get inflation down stubbornly. And we do know that wages are still again high. So we're going to see those young workers still getting, being able to have that negotiating power and ask for those higher wages at this time because employers are still hiring and they need talent.
Something I've witnessed myself with younger workers is they do have a tendency to jump from job to job. How often are you finding that that's the case, and how often are you finding that people want to relocate for work?
Yeah, we are seeing that young professionals have a lot of negotiating power right now, and employers need them more than they need the employer at the end of the day, at least right now in the market we're in. So, young workers are job hopping or hopping jobs a lot right now. And ultimately, yeah, we do see that they have that negotiating power.
That was Alex Gailey there. Now, the Bankrate study also revealed 37% of Gen Zers and 34% of millennials are willing to relocate for their career. And that is compared to 17% of Gen Xers and just 8% of baby boomers. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, one celebrity has a new job taking over for Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune, who's now set to host the long-running game show. And recognizing the past sometimes takes longer than you'd expect. How one city is paying tribute to the fight for LGBTQ rights. And a quick reminder, we'd like to hear from you. You can give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number's on your screen. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Again, that's 1-833-472-7477. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
This year, Americans will spend $41 billion on auto repairs.
That's right, billions with a B. Why is that number so high? Because cars break down. Your vehicle is going to end up in a shop like this too, and if it's no longer under warranty, you're the one who has to pay the bill, and it could cost you thousands of dollars. That is, unless you call CarShield. With a plan through CarShield, administrators will pay for those costly repairs directly to the mechanic of your choice, including dealerships. That means you get protection on major parts and systems like the engine, transmission, electrical systems, and more. Plus, 24/7 emergency services for flat or damaged tires, lockouts, dead batteries, and towing at no additional cost. And there are even rental car options to keep you on the road.
I've been a mechanic for 35 plus years now. I've seen thousands of repairs over the years. My happiest customers are the ones that come in who have some kind of auto protection policy that's going to cover the repair that they wasn't expecting anyway. I feel great about recommending CarShield to everybody I see.
CarShield has a rich history of dependability, reliability, and success, and has been featured on leading networks like ABC, CNN, Fox News, and more. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company.
My mom told me to call CarShield, and I saved $5,000. You should always listen to your mom.
As soon as my car broke down, CarShield jumped into action, and I had my car back within days.
I've been with CarShield for close to 7 years. I have 3 vehicles covered, and I saved close to $9,000.
I called CarShield and saved over $5,000.
Yes, CarShield is a good value. Every plan through CarShield comes with a price lock guarantee, which means no matter how many repairs you need, the price you pay today will never change for as long as you cover your car.
Call now and save money with your price lock guarantee. It's not a matter of if your car will break down, but when. Call CarShield now before it's too late. Call 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264.
Can't afford this. Yeah, you can. Who are you? I'm you from the future, and I just got paid.
And I'm Dave. I can get you up to $500 of your future money now.
$500 instantly?
Instantly.
Awesome. And why are we naked?
Oh, after this, you're gonna check into a nudist resort.
They have free Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm, and volleyball.
Cool.
Download Dave and get up to $500 instantly. No interest, no credit check.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
A real-time map of the front lines in Ukraine. Open sourced through social media.
Are there commanders in the field who are using your maps to make battlefield decisions?
Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
A Florida law aimed at restricting live drag performances has been put on hold. The Protection of Children Act was temporarily blocked by a federal judge on Friday. Republican lawmakers passed the measure to keep minors from seeing what they called, quote, lewd performances. But the judge deemed it vague and unconstitutional. The decision was praised by local drag performers who fear the law would threaten what they love.
That was very devastating. It was very heartbreaking. The fact that we went back in time for a few months, you know, and was on edge, you know, the entire time.
In a statement from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office, Press Secretary Jeremy Redfern said the judge's opinion was dead wrong, and they look forward to appealing. So Pride Month is a celebration of the LGBTQ community, but many are saying that they still struggle with visibility and acceptance. National correspondent Matt Pearl takes us to Milwaukee, where 2 advocates are working to highlight the community's rich history and boost their visibility.
On one side of Milwaukee on a mid-June Monday is a festival filled with thousands.
On the other, a corner plot.
Kind of an interesting story.
Empty, but for two people. On one side,
I got energy like that.
Justin Roby.
I love it.
Can't stop moving. On the other, Michael Takash stands still and speaks steadily.
That heritage is still there.
But through
Nice to meet you, I'm Justin.
what they do,
Listen.
they're on the same side.
Visibility is our top priority.
I wish I would have been able to see this level of visibility as a child. A plaid shirt too, baby.
In some ways, visibility for the LGBTQ community has never been stronger. The percent of Americans identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender has more than doubled in the last 10 years. Support for same-sex marriage has nearly tripled in a single generation. And 2 years ago, the U.S. Census Bureau finally included sexual orientation and gender identity in its household surveys. But visibility on the ground looks different.
Hello.
It looks
How are you doing?
like Roby.
Happy Pride.
He's a director for the nonprofit Diverse and Resilient. They've got a booth at a street festival for not Pride.
Hello. Happy Juneteenth.
But Juneteenth.
We have been emboldened enough to sit here in a non-Pride event and wave our flags without a care. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Visibility means planting a literal and figurative flag for the present and future. It also means uplifting the past.
Most people miss out on this because they don't know that that heritage ever existed.
Takash is at the site of the Black Night, one of a group of bars that catered to the community in the mid-20th century. In 1961, a group of service members showed up and caused trouble. They vowed to come back and clean the bar up.
By the time the sailors returned later that night and thought that they were, going to beat up 4 people, they opened the door to find the bar jam-packed with over 70 people. You're going to fight for that refuge.
It's believed to be one of the first LGBTQ uprisings in American history. Last fall, the Milwaukee County Historical Society agreed to make the Black Knight spot the county's first LGBTQ landmark.
Being able to break that barrier and to really move into a space that has been very white, very straight, and very cisgender is remarkable. Yeah.
Visibility requires vigilance. 2 days after I interview Takash, he sends me a headline that a city 9 miles from Milwaukee canceled its Pride event, in part due to political concerns. And the Juneteenth event that brought so much joy was overshadowed when a fight afterward ended in 6 teenagers being shot. Roby and Takash also fear the continuing wave of legislation around the country that they say targets their community.
No filler, no fluff.
But that's why they do what they do.
Either you into it or you not.
Pride means taking up space where space isn't necessarily assumed.
Yeah.
It means being visible in all spaces.
That's how we got to here.
On all sides of town.
We are essential and should be treated with dignity in everything that we do. It's nice seeing you.
In Milwaukee, I'm Matt Pearl.
And coming up next on Scripps News Live, Cincinnati is turning into Swift-a-natty. We're going to show you how local businesses across the city right now are getting ready to welcome Taylor Swift and all of her adoring fans. And we'd like to remind you right here to follow us at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a fresh new bath or shower? Well, now is the best time with 50% off installation and no interest and no payments for 1 year. Hi, I'm Christina, and it's time to flip your old worn out bath or shower with Jacuzzi Bath Remodel today. Everyone knows the Jacuzzi brand. They're the most trusted name in water for over 60 years. But did you know they can install a gorgeous bath or shower that feels incredible in as little as 1 day? It's no stress and no mess with a lifetime warranty. Now let's talk beauty. You deserve to start and end your day in a beautiful space that feels great and is custom designed just for you. So call or go online now to see the Christina preferred designs like Canyon, Farm, and Urban. Now that's the total bathroom beauty that I love at a price you can afford. And how about safety? Like an ultra low profile, easy entry shower complete with grab bars and a custom designed seat. You deserve safety and peace of mind without sacrificing style. Because with all the worries in daily life, taking a shower shouldn't be one of them.
Every time I stepped over my old tub, I worried I might fall. I don't have those fears anymore. Jacuzzi Bath Remodel gave me a gorgeous shower that's safe too.
I've been trying to get him to remodel that bath for years. I called and they did it in just 1 day.
and at a price we could afford.
With one call to Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, you can effortlessly transform that old, ugly eyesore into the stunning bath or shower of your dreams that you'll love for years to come.
Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com to get 50% off installation. Plus, ask how you may qualify for no interest and no payments for 12 months. And when you call right now, we'll give you our complete safety upgrade for free. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-218-1279. That's 800-218-1279. Call now.
Curious about trick plays and if ever
that local hero, national champ, now he's home and he's trying to save the franchise. Hey guys, am I dreaming or can we actually win this thing?
Summertime comes and summertime goes, so let those good times roll.
We need some help.
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com, and if approved, we can have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need.
All month long, Scripps News is shining a light on awareness, sharing stories of perseverance, and going inside the communities now fighting for their rights. Scripps News presents the stories of Pride Month, all month long, only on Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. NASA has made a crucial new discovery in space. Check this out. The James Webb Telescope found a carbon molecule more than 1,300 light years away from Earth in the Orion Nebula. It's called CH3+. Scientists say discoveries of such carbon compounds can be game changers and might one day help them determine if life exists elsewhere in our universe. So the city of Cincinnati is getting into its Swiftie era. Taylor Swift heading to the Queen City's Paycor Stadium for 2 nights this weekend, and local businesses have been getting ready for the show. From a local retailer dressing up displays with attire fit for the concert to a cookie shop creating a special box of Swift-themed treats. It is a moment that they refuse to miss.
This concert's so big and people are so excited for it, like we have to do something.
Every cookie is related to a Taylor Swift era. Here we've got the Red era. We've got Reputation over here with the snake.
Very cool. And this Friday will mark the first Taylor Swift Day as proclaimed by the Cincinnati mayor. So we have learned who's taking over as the host of Wheel of Fortune. Starting next year, fans can expect to see Ryan Seacrest on the iconic show. He's going to be taking the reins from Pat Sajak after Pat Sajak steps down following more than 40 years as the host. Seacrest tweeted that he is humbled by this news and the 41st season will kick off in September. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us for this hour. Coming up next, Ukraine's counteroffensive pushes on as tensions between Moscow and a Russian paramilitary group play out. We'll be right back.
There's